How's it going, guys? Nick from Confident Video here. I'm in my brand new location. I am done with school for the semester, so I am at my house right now, and this is where you'll be seeing a majority of my videos for the next couple months. So I hope you guys do enjoy the new location. I am right in front of a window, so lighting should not be an issue anymore. So luckily, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit differently. I'm going to be talking about a video game, and it's a game that is near and dear to my heart. However, if you're not into video games, this will all circle back around to what this channel is about, which is about video. So please do stay patient with me. I will try to get to my point at the very end. However, this is a game that I really do enjoy, and it's a game that many people also have enjoyed for almost 10 years, and obviously that game I'm talking about is Uncharted. Uncharted was one of those really special games that came out on the PlayStation 3. Was a game that not many people really knew about when it first came out, because it came out at a weird time when the PlayStation 3 was still in that stage where nobody really wanted the console because of its price point. It wasn't really a release title, but it came out pretty soon after the PlayStation 3 came out, so not many people did pick it up. A lot of people did play Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3, but a lot of people actually did avoid Uncharted 1. While the game did have its mishaps and mistakes with it, it definitely was a game that really set the bar in terms of graphics capabilities as well as a story. It was a game that was just very basic in nature, and when you boil down to it, it's just a third-person shooter, or enemies are just sponges that you just shoot into. But if the story and the characters and the cinematics weren't as good as they would have been, this game probably wouldn't have gone on for 4 and even 5 if you count the PlayStation Vita, 5 different titles. So it really is a game that did what it needed to do in order to survive, and it even got a PlayStation 4 remake, the Uncharted collection, which I do actually also own. So this game series does a lot of things right when a lot of games didn't do them correctly at all. So a game that I wanted to kind of give into perspective about why story and characters and cinematics are important, especially in a third-person shooter, I wanted to look at Army of Two: The Devil's Cartel. It was another game that came out about a couple years ago. It came out on the last gen, so Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. The Devil's Cartel was a game that came off of a really fantastic, in my opinion, titled Army of Two: The 40th Day. It did everything right. The shooting mechanics, the upgradability, the aggro system, and the choices were the best part of the game. So what the choices system was you were usually you were co-op with somebody, because that's the best way to play Army of Two. You had these choices that, if one person picked that choice, that's it. You could be playing with your friend, and you could have your friend choose something that you didn't necessarily agree with, because it was an impulse decision, and I do think that that system is really unique and very special. And there's a lot of times when your friends would disagree with one another about how to handle certain situations. For example, there was this endangered tiger. There was the only tiger left of its species, and if you killed the tiger, you would get certain equipment, and this would actually, in my experience, it would cause a lot of argument, and you would get really pissed off at your friend if he killed the tiger because you didn't want to kill the tiger. However, a lot of these systems that made Army of Two: The 40th Day were not present in Army of Two: The Devil's Cartel, and then it wasn't received as well as Army of Two: The 40th Day. Army of Two: The 40th Day wasn't as critically acclaimed as the game was towards the public. However, Army of Two: The Devil's Cartel was pretty unanimous on how many people perceived the game. So how does this relate to Uncharted? Now, when Uncharted first came out, it was a surprise to a lot of people. Naughty Dog was known for making a lot of platforming games. They made the Crash Bandicoot series and the Jak and Daxter series. So Naughty Dog definitely didn't seem like a game company that really made a lot of games that had a lot of story and depth to them. The Jak and Daxter series definitely did have a lot of story to it, but it really didn't take itself too seriously. And while Uncharted really doesn't, it has a lot more depth into the game, and you care about the characters a lot more. So when that game did come out, a lot of people were actually surprised about how well Naughty Dog was able to transition into a more serious game. And then obviously even more so when The Last of Us did come out. However, this isn't about The Last of Us, this is about Uncharted. So why did people attach to the characters of Uncharted so much? And I think the simple answer is that all the characters are really relatable, and none of them are out of the boundaries of what anybody could have really done in the situations that Nathan Drake was in. Like, sure, he was able to get out of near-death situations almost every time. He's able to climb endlessly. He's able to jump like to different rocks and all that. However, his personality stays grounded and he's always able to crack a joke. He's funny, but at the same time, he isn't some super trained soldier like Halo Spartans, like at all. He's just a normal person, and I think that's what really makes the game great, is that it's just this guy that wants to find treasures because that's what he's been doing his whole life, and you really do attach to that. And then the more characters that come on, the more of them you relate to. Sully is this guy that is this wise, almost wisecracking dad figure to Nathan Drake, and Elena is this love interest. However, she's able to almost keep everybody grounded, and she's always sometimes the voice of reason. However, she's always the person that still wants to go along with Sully and Nate, even though that she's still thinks everything's a bad idea and all that. And I just think that the characters are just, in a way to drive the story more, because if you think about it, every story is pretty much the same in each Uncharted game. I'm actually gonna be honest with you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that I remember all of the Uncharted games stories to a T. I really don't, and I think that kind of further proves my point that the characters are more important than the story that's given to you. And the story in all the Uncharted games are pretty much exactly the same, except with a different bad guy and a different treasure at the end. Uncharted 1 was about finding the hidden treasure of Nathan Drake, Uncharted 2 was about Marco Polo, and then Uncharted 3 was about Nathan Drake again. Because 1 and 3 have Drake in the name and the second one doesn't. I figured that out like a year ago, so that's really the base of all of it, but all of them have the same kind of pretty much overarching story. Drake needs to find a treasure before a bad guy does, and he wants to keep the treasure for himself. However, every time, for the greater good, he has to make sure that the treasure doesn't fall into the wrong hands, and then he ends up not getting the treasure and not getting rich. And that's pretty much how every Uncharted game has ended. I don't know about Golden Abyss because I haven't played it because I don't have a Vita. So that's how the 1, 2, 3 games have played. Uncharted 4 might be different, I haven't played it yet. However, if it does end differently, that would be really cool. However, I do think that what's the most relatable is the characters to the games. Moving on to my second point, which is about the cinematic experience of Uncharted. A lot of the things that happen in Uncharted are very action-packed, and a lot of it almost feels like a movie. There was this ongoing joke that somebody posted, I don't know where it was, if it was on Reddit, if it was on Facebook, I don't know where it was, but when Uncharted 3 came out, this guy was saying that his girlfriend thought Uncharted 3 was a movie, so she would watch it with him, and then he would pretend that it was a movie, so he was like playing the game underneath where she could see, and that was a way that he could play the game and then she could enjoy it. And it's experiences like that in the Uncharted games that I also think makes the game very special. If we go back to our example of Army of Two: The Devil's Cartel, there are a lot of action-packed scenes in the game, and it has to be because it's a game about you fighting the cartel. However, the difference between the Uncharted action scenes and then the Army of Two scenes is that the Army of Two scenes feel like they belong in a video game. In the realm of how they happen, they feel like that they should stay in the constraints of a video game. And I think this is where that post was originally trying to get at, is that the game feels like it could be a movie, and which is why they're making it a movie. However, that's where I think that the joke comes from, is that the game is so good at what it does, and it keeps it well grounded in the fact that it could stay in the realm of a movie. Sure, he's in Uncharted 2, he is climbing up a train after he got shot. Spoilers if you haven't played Uncharted 2, he gets shot, the train blows up, and it's about to fall off a cliff. And he conveniently jumps off the train after the part of the train that he was in falls off the cliff. That may seem unrealistic, however, at the same time, you don't feel like that there's a certain point in that where you know that for sure that he's going to survive. Sure, he's the main character, however, it's still like he's against all odds, whereas in Army of Two, you kind of already know that they're going to make it out alive because they're super soldiers and these guys are just cartel members, and there really isn't any substance to what happens to them because you really don't care about them as much because their story isn't as developed as Nathan Drake's. And there's plenty of examples like this throughout the game. There's the time in Uncharted 2 when the truck's chasing you. That feels like that could be in a movie. Actually, a lot of these could actually feel like that they could be in a James Bond movie, to be honest. Especially the newer ones. Definitely they feel like that they could be in those types of movies for sure. And if James Bond can do it, and then I think that Nathan Drake can do it as well, so there's that too. Uncharted 1 didn't have as many of these, and that's why I do think that Uncharted 1 is probably the one that most fans don't really enjoy out of the three main games. A lot of people argue between Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3 being the best, and if you want to know in my opinion, I think Uncharted 3 does it better. I think that Uncharted 3 has a lot more cinematic experiences, and it kind of helps get into the story of Nathan Drake a lot better. And I think that that's way more important than what Uncharted 2 did, which was a giant step from Uncharted 1. Because when Uncharted 1 came out, there's a lot of mechanics in it that were very basic, whereas Uncharted 2, it had multiplayer, it had a way better story, it had way better action scenes. However, I think Uncharted 3 definitely did push that up way more, and it helped get into the background of Nathan Drake, how he became who he is today, and I think that that's very important. And from my understanding, they also do that in Uncharted 4 as well, with Drake's new brother. If you didn't know that, spoilers, his brother's in it. He's voiced by Troy Baker. That really isn't a spoiler because they've been announcing that since the game has been announced. So if you haven't been keeping track of the news of Uncharted 4, I apologize. So that's why I think that these games are as good as they are, and that's why I think a lot of people like myself have cherished all these games over the past 10 years. And it's definitely something that Naughty Dog is very good at doing, is telling stories. Look at The Last of Us. That game was literally amazing, and if they didn't have the story behind that game, the game would have been awful. And I know a lot of people don't like the game, and that's totally fine. A lot of people don't like Uncharted. That's totally fine. But why a lot of people think Uncharted is great isn't because of the gameplay, because if it was about the gameplay, then almost every single third-person shooter that has a cover system and some stealth in it would be Game of the Year every year. And that's just not true. And you can say that because of the gameplay, it also adds on to it. I'm not saying that the gameplay in Uncharted is bad. What they do for the third-person shooter gameplay is great. There are a lot of games that don't do third-person well at all, but I'm saying if every game had the same level of third-person shooter gameplay that Uncharted had, I still don't believe that those games would be Game of the Year every time. And then how does this relate to film? I know this is a really drawn-out subject about Uncharted, and I'm really passionate about Uncharted, so I did kind of go on a little bit of a tangent. How does this relate to film? And you have to really think about the two main reasons why I think Uncharted is great, and it's because of the story and the experience that you get from the game. You really need to try to get that into the films you're making, because the people don't care about your characters. They're not going to have that great of an experience. There are very few exceptions about this. The Final Destination series, people love those. What I'm saying though is that if you really want to make a film that people want to attach to as big as Uncharted, then you need to do everything correctly. You need to not lack on the story. You need to make sure the characters are relatable, and you need to make sure they're likable, and you need to make sure that the experience that you're giving to the people that are watching your films or your videos are worth their time. And Uncharted does all those things perfectly. And that's why on IGN, Uncharted 1 got a 9, Uncharted 2 got a 9, and then Uncharted 3 got a 10, is because these games are so good at what they do. And if you're able to do that in your videos, then you will make as great of videos as the Uncharted game. So try to make the next Uncharted. Don't copy what they're doing, but take the concepts of the games, make relatable characters, make a great experience, and you'll have a great story and a great narrative for you guys to push your stories even further. And then everything that goes with that, the special effects, obviously. If you're making an action movie, the action. If you're making a drama, the drama scenes, and push all that second. Make sure to get relatable characters first, because those are what people care about more, in my experiences. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please let me know, and I will make more of these kind of game videos that relate back into film. I like that little circle motion that I did earlier in the video, so I'm going to keep doing that. So if you want more videos like this, please let me know, and I will try to make more videos where I relate games and the concepts that they do in the games back into how you can do that in the video, because I've been playing games all my life, so I do know a lot about games, and I know a lot about different types of games. I know many different game series, so if you do want something like this, please let me know in the comments below. So I hope you guys did enjoy, and remember, I don't have a huge ego. I'm just pretty confident. See you guys.